Okay, we are now streaming live on Facebook.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, because today's kind of a fun subject, right, Leah? It's, when you get asked, what do you do? What do you do?
And you don't
Oh,
want people to glaze over or check out when you tell them.
exactly. And you
Because
don't
that
want to have to
happens.
cringe when you hear that, because now it's like you have to figure out how to tell them what you do. And so that's our topic for today. I don't know if either one of you ladies have experienced that. I know Leah and I have.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so, we talked about it, and we have 3 points basically that we feel has helped us. And the first one is to say that you support an animal's emotional needs.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is to bring up that you do this through meditation. And right now you haven't even said the word Reiki. And after you get that far into the conversation, then you might decide, depending on who you're speaking to bring up the idea of Reiki. And I think we did that because we know there's so much confusion around the word Reiki. It is, thought of in the West as a hands-on healing system. And if people know Reiki, if they've trained in Reiki in the West, that's what they know. They know it to be that. And if we go to work with one of their animals, or we teach in a class, a lot of things can happen. They might get really upset. They might say, this isn't Reiki. There could just be a lot of things that come up because of that. And so it's really important that we set ourselves apart from the very beginning. And these are ways that we can do that. What do you think, Leah?
Yeah, I think it's really important to right away just talk about how we support the emotional needs, because right now nobody's doing that. So right there, it sets you apart as doing something different and very powerful. And you can talk about how in shelters or anywhere, they're really not addressing the emotional needs of the animals. And so we have a wonderful technique. Also, meditation sets us apart. Not very many people meditate with animals. I always say I meditate with tigers because I go to care every year. And people are always interested. Oh my God, what are you doing? So there's an immediate buy-in when you say, or you can say, like in Joan's cases, I meditate with horses or farm animals, or in Darlene's case, I meditate with snakes, I meditate with reptiles. And then right away, there's, oh my gosh, what does that mean? And there's buy-in. Whereas when we say, and this used to happen to me a lot when I first started off with Reiki. Oh, I do animal Reiki. Well, what's that? Most of the time, people in my world, because I was working in corporate, did not know Reiki at all. And so it was like, what? And then they're so confused by the word Reiki, and they're already thinking that sounds weird, that they weren't open to talking about anything else. But when we do it, when we sell the outcome instead of how we get to the outcome, it goes a lot better. Like I worked for this life coach, and she said, marketing agencies for travel agencies, or for travel in general, they don't sell the trip to Paris. They don't sell the crowded plane, the long flight, the hours waiting in the airport, the crappy food on the plane. They sell Paris. They sell the experience of Paris. They don't even sell the cheap hotel experience, right? They're selling what's going to happen once you're there and you're experiencing it. And that's really what we want to remember with Animal Reiki. We want to talk about the experience of the animals. And that's super important, I feel. And then we can get into, after they find out, oh, we do meditation and we support the emotional needs. Now we can talk about, well, this is really based in what's called a traditional Reiki, but it's a different system. Because again, like you said, Jamie, we're not doing the Western or even some of the Eastern ways that are being taught. But interestingly enough, if you go back to the history of where Reiki started, we actually are in complete alignment with the origins of Reiki, because Reiki wasn't a hands-on system. It was a meditative system when Usui created it, and the way he taught it and the way he shared it. Mrs. Takata, Dr. Hayashi, who wasn't even a doctor, they all came up with the hand positions to make it more medical, to make it more widely accepted. But it was not a hands-on healing method. So I always think that that's really interesting, because the reality is we are going back to the origins.
That's a good point. We really are. And that's not what people know of Reiki.
No, they think Reiki, which is really funny. They think, okay, hands-on healing, all this, but that's Mrs. Takata and Dr. Hayashi. That's after Usui. That's not even. And so Nicholas Pearson, who is a Reiki scholar and a Reiki author, and he did the Foundations of Reiki Ryoho, he wrote that book. He says that Usui probably only used 1 or 2 fingers, and he probably was more like, I'm going to put 2 fingers here, 2 fingers there, and then maybe even a foot, he said. There's a history of Reiki that's coming out next year by Justin Stein that's supposed to be amazing. That's going to really give us a lot of clarity on this. But, you know, according to Nicholas, there weren't any real hand positions or touch, but it's like, I think Mel said it earlier, some animals crave touch. So they're going to come to you for touch, and that's okay. But we don't want to have those hand positions, because that gets you into trouble.
Absolutely. That will. And it kind of goes against, you know, respecting the animals and allowing them choice, freedom of choice. And that's what we're all about. You know, we do want to allow the animal to lead, to let them choose how they want to participate, for sure. And that can be misunderstood, right? I don't know if either one of you, anybody else has had that experience, because unfortunately, sometimes people go into environments, especially professional environments. So by that, I mean, you know, like professional animal environments. Maybe it's a vet's office. Maybe, you know, it's organization, a shelter organization. And they make claims about Reiki, or they say they do Reiki, and maybe they're not even doing Reiki at all. Maybe they're doing something totally different, because you know that a lot of people do a lot of different things in the name of Reiki. And I think we've all seen that. And it gives Reiki a bad name to where they don't want you in their facility. So if you go in and say, oh, I do animal Reiki, their experience may have been bad, you know, just because of one bad apple. And they're like, nope, they've already shut down. And that's what we don't want to happen.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think that what happened, you know, we talked about earlier, like at the San Francisco SPCA, and then there's a shelter back east, you know, people go in there and they're mixing Reiki. Now they're not even doing animal Reiki. They're doing Reiki, maybe mediumship or animal communication and crystals. And then they're going against what the vets are ordering. And that's something we never want to do. And for a while, the San Francisco SPCA they had banned Reiki. And I know that American Holistic Vet Association, the AHVMA, I think that the people that are running that right now, they still don't like Reiki. And there's a reason, because they had a bad experience with it, or they have these people that come and they claim these things and they claim to be healers, and they interfere. And that's always a dangerous thing. And so even with the AHVMA, like Kathleen spoke she spoke twice. And the last time was 2010, because after that, they were banning animal Reiki. So it's something we have to be really careful of.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and it's sad that we have others out there who are making it more difficult. But because we know that, why start off, even if maybe the group you're speaking to might be open to Reiki, why start off with that if you're not sure?
Right.
Why make it, you know, put an obstacle in front of you? Because we know how valuable what we do is for the animals. We know they benefit. We know their caregivers benefit. We know we need to get this out there. So let's not make it harder on ourselves than we have to, because any business is already kind of hard, to get people's buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
So why make it even harder by immediately saying, I do Reiki? Because you don't know how that's going to be taken.
No, you don't. And you don't know, like we said, you don't know what their experience is, whether it's with a bad experience with an animal Reiki practitioner, or if it's a bad experience with Reiki in general, or they look at it as like woo-woo and not really scientifically based. Whereas meditation has lots of scientific research behind it. And if it works for humans and everybody knows it's really passive, then they're more open to it when it comes to animals.
Mm-hmm. Or if you say, I support animals' needs, emotional needs.
Right.
Well, then what are people going to do? They're not going to be offended by that. They might be curious because they don't understand. They might say, well, how do you do that? And then you've got the conversation going.
Right.
And that's really important, to engage them and get that conversation going.
Yeah, you absolutely have to be, willing to, well, of course you have to have all your facts, right? Like how it supports the emotional needs, right? It can help with PTSD. It can help with the dying process. And then then you can say how it also helps people, right? Because these animals help people. Like I just love the story of Kathleen when she went to Sacramento with the horses, and how the lady said, well, these traumatized horses don't like Reiki, because they had chased out a Reiki practitioner. And Kathleen said, well, we don't do Reiki like that. So we're just going to stand around and we'll see. And, there's so many photos and videos of the horses coming up, putting their heads in the people's chest. And the founder was crying. And she couldn't believe the turnaround from the horses. And then she did this little video. We actually shared it with the Canadian Reiki Association after everyone left. There's a video of the horses like kicking and bucking and running around. She said, oh, who's an old man? She kept saying that. Who's an old man? Who's an old on the video? Because these were old horses and they were acting like young geldings, just giving it all, because they felt so good. And that's really what the system does. So when we pigeonhole ourselves, right, Jamie, by saying we do Reiki, then what happens,
Exactly, because we don't know what their experience has been with it. And it is kind of charged sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely want to make it as easy as possible to share this information.
Yeah, and like when we did our presentation for the Canadian Reiki Association, we just basically said, we follow the 6 pillars, we explained the 6 pillars. And then we showed a couple things. We showed from Keepers of the Wild, which I know that you went to, and you've done Reiki with those animals and how open they were to that. And then also the horse video and the horse story. And we really emphasize how it's not people Reiki converted to animals, which is really important because, we told the Canadian Reiki Association that human Reiki converted to animals was how Kathleen started over 20 years ago. That's what she wrote her first book on. So these other schools that are doing human Reiki converted animals, they're 20 years behind us. So now not only are you doing something really incredible, you're doing something that's completely current. Whereas other animal Reiki schools, guess what? They're 20 years behind because no one is doing this like us. And so the Canadian Reiki Association, they were flabbergasted. They could talk to us just to hear like what we were doing. And they're like, oh my God, we need everybody to be doing it your way. And so they're working on, we haven't heard whether or not they're going to, but they're working on requiring anyone who wants to be listed as an animal Reiki practitioner study our way. So you can see where the doors can really open when you have integrity and when you really believe in what it is that you're doing and you're sharing it in this really ethical way. Because they loved the fact that it wasn't human Reiki adapted to animals, because they don't think that that's right? You're kind of watering down a Sui's thing, whereas Kathleen created her own system, right? She stays in her lane. Stay in your lane, brah. And, here's human Reiki, here's animals. And yes, we have some similar things, but we diverge when it comes to state of mind, hands-on. What else, Jamie, like for human Reiki that you wouldn't do with an animal?
So it's like with human Reiki. Oops. Oh. Yeah, we know. I have some hecklers. Hey, hecklers. It's all right. So with human Reiki, when you get a session, you go in, you lay on a table, you get really still. The practitioner moves around. They put their hands on you. They're moving. They're focusing on the problem, like because they ask you that, what's going on with you, and we don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. The practitioner becomes still. The animals move in and out of the energy. We don't focus on the problem. So it's so different. And if you have someone that, somehow engages a conversation with you that is Western taught, they may tell you that what we do isn't even Reiki.
Yeah.
And in some ways they're right, because it's not the Western style Reiki. Mm-hmm. I always like to say what we do is, sprinkled. It's like seasoned with Reiki.
I like that a lot.
It's seasoned with Reiki because there's aspects that we bring into it that are from Reiki.
Absolutely. Well, like if you take an animal Reiki class, you're going to get a Reiju. If you take an animal Reiki class, you're going to learn traditional Japanese meditations. And I know some schools teach that, some schools don't. You're going to learn hands-on healing for yourself, which is really important.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be directing the energy. And I think that that's just a really important distinction. And I think that the more we go on with this system, the let animals lead, the clearer the language is getting about what it is that we do.
Yeah. And it will be the same for us. The more we practice, get ourselves out there in public, start talking to people, trying to explain what we do, the clearer you will become.
Absolutely.
But we just have to go out there and try it, and maybe think about beforehand. So Leah and I came up with a few things that maybe you could use, or you could use parts of it, whatever you like. Mm-hmm. So one of them is I support the emotional wellness of animals. I help when pets are stressed, sick, grieving, or their family is experiencing a major life change, such as a divorce or a move. Or you could say, I support the emotional needs of animals when they're stressed, sick, grieving. I do this through meditation. And you could also say, I teach or practice, whichever one it is, meditative techniques that will transform a stressed, shut down animal into an open, trusting one. It can take a competitive sports animal and improve their focus or their love of the sport. And it can bring relaxation and peace to all animals, especially your companion animals. Those are focusing on the result is basically what we're trying to show there.
Yeah. And I love that too, because we forget that I think that sometimes we forget that there are lots of animals that can be supported by this. And I love how, you have experience with competitive animals, whether it's racehorses or dogs or whatever it is, professionals when they're out there working. And that's a really untapped area for all of us to be able to go into and say, hey, I help with this. I can help your animal. You have a great experience with a working show dog or nose work dog.
Yeah.
It's turned around thanks to Reiki.
Yeah. And, those animals need this desperately. So one of my clients, Burton, he was a nose work dog, but he was a retired drug dog. And his mom, he had worked with his mom from the time she got here. I mean, every day he went to work with her. They did searching, all kinds of things like that. Then when he retired, they did nose work just to keep him active and give him something to do. But before she got Burton, she had a dog and she went to 9/11. She volunteered and went to 9/11. And she told me after she got to know me, she said, Jamie, I wish you had been there. The dogs needed someone like you.
Yeah.
help them. So we don't think about that because, I don't know, I guess we just, think that they love what they do, which they do. They absolutely love it. They love to work, most of them. Even therapy dogs, they love what they do, but they still need a release from the stress, from the work that they're put in there for. For 9/11, they were stressed because they were taught to find people and they weren't finding people.
Mm-hmm.
So they would go in and search all day and they couldn't find bodies.
It's frustration.
So the frustration for them, so these animals, and, it's the same for any working animal, whether it's a dog, whether it's a horse, they're trained for a job and it can be stressful. There can be a lot of stress in that job. So we can bring them this incredible gift that allows them to continue to do their job and then have the recovery time, because we all need rest and recovery. So say it's a dog, the dog goes to work, does its job. Well, then it needs rest and recovery. Mm-hmm. And we can bring that to it.
And I love that too. That's a really important part that you could add is rest. You are there to offer rest and recovery, because even people, that's becoming rest and recovery is becoming kind of a tagline in the entrepreneur world. So, people can understand that term, rest and recovery. And especially for the working dogs, like the canine dogs, or, the horses that help the police officers, right? The mounted police, there's different opportunities to go in and offer your services. And those places have money. So you could actually do that as a business and make some money. But really just going in and just saying, look, your dogs are working just like people. And they'll go, oh, well, yeah, but they go home. Again, emotional needs. A person can go to therapy. They can go get counseling. They can read a book. They can they have their family. There's all different ways they can get rest and recovery. But an animal, it's like, well, they're laying down sleeping. Well, their emotional needs aren't being met or supported. And so that's where we can step in. And I love that about what we do.
Yes, absolutely. That's so important. I mean, because they're getting their physical needs taken care of. They're getting fed, they're getting rest, but they have emotional needs. Mm-hmm.
Like in the shelter too, that's why Fear Free, it's such a great organization, because they're trying to change the dynamic of what's happening to animals in shelters. But again, they're not, I don't know if anyone's taken the Fear Free shelter training, but they're not even addressing the mental state of mind, for the humans that are dealing with these. And then they're not talking about the emotional support of the animal. So again, they are doing better because they're trying to reduce the fear in vets' offices, because that's how Fear Free started. It started in a vet's with Dr. Marty Becker in his office. He wanted to make animals more comfortable. So then, keeping the cats elevated, keeping them covered the whole time, all those fun things. But again, guess what? We could step in and say, hey, we've got that missing piece, right? So there's so many opportunities here to spread Animal Reiki. You don't have to go to a shelter or do individual sessions. You can actually go into some of these organizations and offer to support their animals.
So Darlene or Joan, do you have any experiences or comments you'd like to share?
Doesn't matter. Do you want to go first, Darlene?
Go ahead, Joan.
Thank you. My good friend is Heidi Carmen, and she started First Responders Therapy Dogs. And when her dog is Kareth, the golden retriever, who's on Instagram, and she's become famous. She goes into the hospitals and various other places during the week. But when it's fire season, she will pack up her stuff and go with Kareth to the base camps of where the fires are. And Kareth is a therapy dog for the firefighters when they get off shift. So they're just at the base camp. And Kareth is just such a gregarious, lovely dog, just this 100% pure love. And so when she comes back from those fires, they're both exhausted. And so she dialed me up and said, can you come over and do some Reiki, animal Reiki with Kareth? And I sat with her. I, went into a meditation with her. I mean, she was zonked. I mean, she was just out and, just so exhausted from giving and, just 100% being there for those firefighters. And I was just so thrilled. She said, after you left, she said the next day she had so much energy and she was back to herself. And
I love that.
So that's really, it's so warms my heart when I can do something like that.
I love that. Because just like, you can imagine if you were out supporting people during a crisis, right? And you come home, you just want to sleep for days, right? Just that exhaustion, and how wonderful you were there for Kareth, that you could just be there to support that. And then the next day she was like, because they recover so much quicker than we do, right? We could go get a massage, have a long nap. Still, it's going to take days.
Mm-hmm.
Animals bounce back so quickly.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
That's a beautiful story.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Darlene, what were you going to add?
I was just going to say the couple opportunities that I've, had to be able to go out to do Reiki with animals is, that I say that it's, animal Reiki, that it's a form of Reiki that focuses on meditation and is a, completely hands-off, hands-free method, and it's like my, business name is Touching Hearts Animal Reiki. And so it's, and my motto is touching hearts, not hands. So it's, the people that, my friends that run the pug rescue for the senior pugs, they were already familiar with Reiki because my friend Melissa worked at the Oakland Zoo, and she said that somebody came to the zoo when she worked there. It was probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe, I guess 15 years ago now, and said that, somebody came to the zoo and did Reiki. So she was familiar with it. And she was familiar with the method. So I was wondering if maybe it was either you, Leah, or maybe Kathleen.
No, it wasn't me, but it could have been one of Kathleen's students.
Yeah. So, but she was familiar with the method. So, and there's, another dog rescue that I have connected with that, just again told them, it's like I had talked with Jamie about it probably, a month ago or so. And she just said to make sure that I say that it focuses on, meditation and, that we're meditating with the animals and that. So, and that seemed to work with them. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Yeah. It's like, it's not like doors are going to be slammed, but you just got to be prepared to really navigate those waters. Joan, I would love it if you would write a blog story about Kareth for Sarah. I think that would just be such a wonderful story to share and encourage people to support these beautiful animals who are doing so much to work. And Darlene, I'm waiting for your blog on one of your reptiles. She has amazing stories about her little Stevie and other reptiles. Joan hasn't seen, but she has all these little bearded dragons, and she'll bring them sometimes to the calls, and they're sitting here and just so adorable.
My babies.
But it's really, we have to remember we have such a gift to share. And I think that sometimes I know for me personally, I don't know about you, Jamie, because you're a little more bold, you're more confident than I am, but just like sharing what we do, it's like, people go, what do you do? Oh my God, do I really want to say this in front of all these executives? I do animal Reiki. They're like, But when we can say, well, I have techniques that I support the emotional needs of animals, then people go, oh, wow, that's crazy. And then they want to know more. So again, just really having that language so that we can feel confident and we don't feel like, oh, they're just going to think I'm woo-woo. Well, if you say you're supporting the emotional needs and Joan, like that perfect story that you have about the rescue dog, I mean, that just highlights what we do so beautifully and why we do it, right? I mean, to give back to these animals who give so much, and whether they're giving so much, you know, through work or like with you, darling, with the senior pugs, right? They've given so much to families, and we owe it to them to give back and support them.
Absolutely.
I also have had a couple of really, really wonderful experiences up at Charlie's Acres with, here's a picture of these. They were called by someone to come and get these hens who were improperly debeaked as babies. And you can see there's no top beak. It's just the bottom. So they, you know, it's just been I mean, this was me doing after I did Reiki with them. They just kind of huddled on their little thing and they wanted to be close. You know, I haven't had them on my lap yet, but they were frightened. They were traumatized. They were, you know, they came as a group. There were like 21 of them.
Oh, all beaks were
all
back
from a place that just, and I can't remember the name of it or the circumstances, but they've settled, you know, they're settling. I mean, there's still the pecking order of, you know,
right.
like as there is with any group of chickens, but they, you know, I like that when I close my eyes and do Reiki, I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't, you know, occasionally I'll open my eye just a little bit just to see.
Yeah, of course.
And they're, you know, I think they appreciate the Reiki because I don't think they had a calm beginning to their lives. And so I think the Reiki is something that they just are drawn to, just to make their day, you know, to bring some peace into their day that they never had before.
Well, right. Well, there's that emotional need, right? Like they're getting care, right, Jamie? They're getting food.
They weren't fed either properly. They were emaciated and almost dead. So so
here they come to this place and now there you are to support the needs. I love that.
Right. And, you know, with trauma, I mean, they obviously had trauma. And just like when people experience trauma, right, it doesn't just go away because you've been plucked out of that situation. And the same is true for the animals. So we have this beautiful gift that can help support them as they release some of that and they learn to trust and find peace.
Yeah. Well, it's post-traumatic stress disorder, right? In animals,
Yeah.
But we don't really talk about that. We don't really acknowledge that, but those chickens obviously had post-traumatic stress, you know, coming in, and you can't let go of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why what we do is just so necessary. And we need to talk about it more because of situations like that, Joan. Because even though, like you said, Jamie, they've been rescued, but that doesn't mean the trauma stops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, it's not something that maybe training can solve, you know, or just anything else. I'm thinking of, and whether you like him or not, there was a Cesar Millan episode, and there was a veteran who had been to war with her dog, and the dog had been to numerous wars with her. And all of a sudden, one 4th of July, fireworks were going off, and it freaked out, and it took off, and it took her a day to find him, and he was hiding in the neighbor's shower. Oh. And so, of course, she took him for training to get him through that. But imagine, I mean, that just shows that they do suffer from PTSD. They do have trauma, and their emotional needs, supporting their emotional needs is really important, especially for, you know, for any animal. But you take these working dogs and you put them in environments like that, there's no time for rest and recovery. And eventually that comes out in some way.
Right. Wow. That's so sad for that little dog. But it's been through numerous wars, probably had numerous 4th of Julys. And then all of a sudden one just boom.
Yes.
Just like with people, enough is enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know what's going to trigger a person. Or, you know, you can go through a lot of bad experiences and then one may just trigger you. And it's the same for the animals.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one bearded dragon. I've had her now for probably 4 years, and I guess it's 4, maybe 5 years. But I think that she was abused when she was little before I got her, because even now she still kind of freaks out when I go to pick her up. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, with as often as I hold her, it's like every time I pick her up, she just goes into this like panic mode for like, you know, 30 seconds, and then she calms down, realizes that I'm gonna be okay, that she's safe. So that's why I think that she must have been traumatized or something.
Yeah.
I kind of suspect, I know where she came from, so I know that there were some issues, so, but I don't know to the extent. But
Yeah.
it's just amazing how, you know, just picking her up now all these years later, and she's still kind of just like spazzes out. But
Because that moment of when she's just, but it's nice that your calming energy can then like reassure, because that's a really good point, Darlene. You know, this isn't a cure-all. Reiki isn't a cure-all. Animal Reiki isn't. You can have animals that are deeply traumatized and they're not going to change. Like Kathleen and I both had dogs that had horrible trauma, and Kathleen's dog was trauma from the womb. So, you know, we don't put enough emphasis on that. But Mystic, when she came, she was, you know, sweet and everything. But as she got older, all these crazy things started to happen. And pretty soon, you know, she was getting Reiki every day, didn't take it away. It just helped her soothe her during the time and for a little bit after. But, you know, it's just those moments of peace that we're looking for. We want to give them some type, and some animals, they'll build on it and they'll grow from it. And then some, well, my dog was dog aggressive. And I think with aggression, especially when it's not necessarily trauma, it's just more aggression from either they haven't been socialized enough, so they're scared. That I just haven't seen Reiki help that much, but it did support him before he passed away. I mean, it did support him a lot. It would calm him down. Even my I have another pit bull that's dog aggressive really badly, and he like freaks out at the window. And so we have to say decompress, and he comes over and we do Reiki breathing, and then he gets calm really fast, and then everything's fine, and he doesn't like, you know, that's gone, and he doesn't think about it, and he doesn't obsess. So there's these pockets, but it hasn't cured him from not wanting to kill another dog.
Right.
That's a step,
Yes.
that's a bridge too far.
You know, and a lot of people have that idea that Reiki will just cure anything because there are people out there making those claims.
Yeah.
And we know that's not really the truth. Yes, it always works for the highest good. It always helps in a situation. You know, I have 2 girls here. One of them, the older one, is always attacking the little one. I mean, really severe, where I have to get in there right away and I have to watch them all the time. And they live in a Reiki house, you know, and she's got to be on CBD oil, and still she has these moments. But fortunately, I can pick up on her energy, you know, so I just have to watch her really close, because I can tell usually when it's about to happen. And I'm always close by, and she's in her harness all the time. And I just grab the harness and it's like, okay, you need to take a time out. Let's go. But, you know, so it doesn't cure everything, but it does make it a little easier. You know, there is a little more peace around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that, like, in summary, if you want to just summarize again, Jamie.
Yeah. So in summary,
together.
you know, we get asked, what do you do? And then it's like, oh my gosh, what do we say? How do we explain this? So, you know, what we do is we support animals' emotional needs. You know, that's one of the main things that you can talk about. I support animals' emotional needs. You can say you do that through meditation or meditative techniques, right? And then after, you know, you've kind of summed up, you know, your audience to see if it's appropriate, then you can bring in animal Reiki if you want. And you don't even have to, really. You can just talk about the results. And that's really powerful.
And why don't you
that's what people want. They want the results.
Why don't you repeat those, the talking points too,
Okay.
because those are really good.
So what do you do? I support the emotional wellness of animals. I help when pets are stressed, sick, grieving, or their family is experiencing a major life change, such as a divorce or a move, because those are all stressful.
Yeah.
I support the emotional needs of animals when they are stressed, sick, grieving, or their family is experiencing a major life change. I do this through meditation. I teach or practice meditative techniques that will transform a stressed, shut down animal into an open and trusting one. It can take a competitive sports animal and improve their focus or their love for the sport. It can bring relaxation and peace to any animal, but especially your companion animals.
I love that, because that gives a lot of great talking points that you can build on. And again, going to the canine department, or if there's not very many mounted horse policemen. There used to be in Portland. I was so bummed they left right before I moved here. But if you live by a racetrack, like in LA, they closed the racetrack here too. They just closed everything for animals. So I never got a chance to do them either. But so there's racetracks. There's racetracks for animals too, sadly. And there's zoos and other places like that. And I know that we've talked about this where people are like, I don't want to go to zoos. I don't want to support zoos. But you have to remember the animals are still there. Whether or not you support the zoo, the animals are still there. So if you can, get out of your comfort zone and just go. Because I know that you and I both, Jamie, have had amazing experiences at zoos, and how the animals, they feel your energy. You go there with that intent. I'm here to support you. And they actually feel it and they respond. You would be shocked at how, well, you have that beautiful story. You haven't shared that, I don't think, on Zoom. You should share that right now, because that's a beautiful story.
Yeah, so I was at the San Diego Zoo, and it was a Saturday, and it was really busy. And so I just decided I need to go see the gorillas. I need to go see the gorillas. So I worked my way up there, and it was a typical exhibit. They had it was really large, that's true. And there was dirt and there was shrubbery and trees. So the animals at least had that. And then they had that little covered area with a section of it glass so people could stand under there, right, and watch the animals. And this day, that place was packed. It was a Saturday, and I just thought, I have to get up there. I have to get up there. So I kind of elbowed my way through the crowd. And then I noticed that all these people were really mocking the animals, like they were scratching their armpits and ooh, 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 and mocking the gorillas. And the gorillas were as far back as they could get in the enclosure. They were far away from the people. And I stood there, and I was immediately embarrassed that I was part of the human species. And I thought, these animals are going to think I'm like them. Right. And I was it just broke my heart, and I was sad. And it's like, why did I come here? The animals are going to think I'm one of them. They hate us, And then I made eye contact with the silverback, just briefly, because I know that's not good. So I broke it and looked down, and I'm still not sure how I did that, because he was so far away. It's really not physically possible that I made eye contact, but I know we did. And he immediately stood up and he started walking towards me. And of course, the closer he got, the more obnoxious the people next to me got. And I was like, why are you coming down here? Don't come down here. I shouldn't have, it's my fault. I shouldn't have made eye contact. And he just kept coming. He did not care. And he came and stood directly in front of the glass. And I'm up as close to the glass as I can get. And then he just came up, and we had this moment. And then he turned around and he sat back down and he leaned against the glass, and he was still directly in front of me. And something happened in that moment. All these crazy people that I was so embarrassed for and I didn't want to be like, they just disappeared. It's like they melted away, and it was just this silverback and me. And we had made this connection. we really saw each other. And I've never forgotten it. I mean, that has just stayed with me. I remember that moment. When I tell you the story, I can just see it in my mind's eye. And that's how powerful it was. He saw me, and I knew that it was okay. He wasn't upset with those people. They weren't even on his radar. I was on his radar.
I love that, because it just reminds us that we think it has to be a certain way, the way humans are, right? We'd have to get somebody's attention. We'd have to like make it obvious, hey, I'm here. But our energy, we have to remember, like if your energy says, I'm here for you, they feel that. I remember, like, you know, when I took a group there, we just had that concept. The lions, there's all these people, and then all of a sudden they're like, I felt like the lion was looking directly at me. And it's like, well, they were, because we're there holding space, and they feel it and they connect. So it's really interesting. I mean, you literally, like, you go up and it's like boom, 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 constant. I had this little baby elephant. It was just her and I, and she was playing like peekaboo. She'd go down the water, and then she'd come up, and she'd spurt, and then she'd go back down, and she'd come back up. And I was looking around going, oh my God, this is crazy. It's just me and her. But we don't give ourselves enough credit for our energy. Our energy is huge, and our intent is huge. And so really just going outside our comfort zone to share this beautiful gift is really necessary. It's something that we can easily share, and it's something we should share. And so that's why we wanted to do this, so that we can help you talk about it more easily. So like if you are at the zoo and someone comes up and asks you, what are you doing? You can say, oh, well, I'm meditating, right? And Darlene, you have connections at the zoo. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Get over there.
I just haven't had a chance to get over there. I know I want to get back, but you know, even the times that I did work at the zoo before I even knew Reiki, it's like I had a connection with the animals, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, even, you know, especially the chimps, you know, it's like before the zoo would open, we had our chores, you know, set chores that we had to do. So I would always make sure that I would stop to see the chimps first thing in the morning. And it was just so cool, just the way that they would interact. You know, would hang out with them for a few minutes, and they would come up to the glass. And there was one, she was the family, you know, I forget what they call a group, but she was like the matriarch of the whole group there, and her name was Josie, and she was just so sweet. She was just this like, and she was like a 90-year-old lady, just, you know, like kind of, you know, slow moving, but she had a heart of gold, and her eyes told a story. She was truly amazing. And when she would come over to me and put her hand on the glass, and I would put my hand on the glass, and it's like we definitely had a connection. It's like I got goosebumps just.
Oh,
it was just
so wonderful.
There was one time that I was over in that area working. It was still morning time, and so it was kind of quiet. And one of the other chimps, Joey, he was this crazy guy. He would see us working. It's like he would want to help. He was like, because there was like the glass, and then there was a dome over, you know, a wire dome over, so they could, you know, reach through the dome, and he would drop stuff. Like he'd get a handful of leaves or some sticks and would drop them like where I was working. And there was one time he went and got a mouthful of water and came in and spit it at me. So it was pretty funny. So.
Oh my God, I love that. So see, lots of fun things can happen, and you don't even have to you don't have to be physically touching.
No, you don't.
So it's getting late, so we should do a meditation.
Yeah.
You can close this, because it's always nice to end with a meditation. And
it is.
Okay.
All right. And who's going to do the meditation?
I don't care.
You can go ahead and do it. I did it this morning.
All right, that's fine. All right, so everyone, we're just going to get nice and straight in our backs. And we'll just take a couple cleansing breaths, just breathing in, pulling that breath deep into your belly, and then let go of all the stress you're hanging on to. Just a couple of those breaths. And with every out breath, feel your body start to relax and become comfortable. And let's just go into Gasho and set our intention that we're open to receive whatever it is that we need most at this moment in time. And whenever you're ready, you can put your hands either face up or face down in your lap. And we're just going to do our breath of light meditation. So breathing in through your nose, gently pulling that breath deep into your belly. And then expanding your belly and gently releasing that breath. And you're going to keep this breath going. But I want you to now imagine that when you pull your breath in, your breath ignites a light deep within your belly. On the in-breath, it ignites the light, and on the out-breath, it expands the light. With every breath in and out, the light within you grows brighter. This light can be white or purple or gold. It is your own unique light. Feel this light starting to seep down from your belly into your legs, down into your calves and into your feet. As you breathe in and out, it starts to travel up from your stomach, up into your heart area, coming into your throat, filling your head, and coming down your shoulders, into your arms, into your hands, and just starts to seep out your skin into the space around you. You are filled with this beautiful light. This is your own unique healing light. And as you breathe in and out, the strength of your light increases until soon you are just a big ball of light. It is a beautiful healing light. It is the true light within you. Feel yourself become lighter, happier, more joyful in this space. Now bring to mind an animal you love deeply, an animal that makes you smile and makes your heart expand. See them joining their light with yours. Feel your heart expand as they connect with you. In this beautiful space, we are all one. And just take a moment to sit in this beautiful space with your animal. Feel that connection, feel the expansion of your heart, and feel that deep sense of joy and peace flood your body. Just enjoy this beautiful moment with this animal you love deeply. This beautiful connection of oneness is something we can call to mind just through our breath. Whenever we feel stressed or sad or angry, we can stop, breathe into our belly, and bring this connection to our mind. This connection is always there for us. There is no separation between us and our beloved animals. Their heart is always with ours. So as we slowly start to come back, focusing on your breath, bring your attention to the feeling of the cool air coming in through your nose and down into your belly. Keep with you that expansive feeling of your heart. Keep that beautiful sense of joy and love and peace that you feel about your animal with you, knowing they are always in your heart with you. There is no separation. And slowly start to focus on that breath. Maybe breathe deeper. Give a deeper out breath. Start to wiggle your fingers. And bringing your hands into Gasho. Give thanks for this beautiful connection. Give thanks to your animal for joining you. And you can bring yourself back. Thank you. It's always nice to do a meditation, you know?
That was really nice. Thank you, Leah, for doing that. That was nice.
I've been thinking about my dog Titus lately, my pit bull that crazily enough was put down the day after Kathleen had to put down her dog Mystic, and they were friends. It was the strangest thing. Never understand what happened there. We'll never know, right? But I think of him and I always have to remind myself, you know, he's right here, always with me. And, you know, we always think, oh, they're there or they're past, when really that's not, they're right here. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do that selfishly.
That's all right. That's all right. It was beautiful. I think we all need that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Joan and Darlene. Thank you,
Jamie.
so much.
Thanks,
You
Darlene.
for sharing your stories. I love this so much. It's one of the best parts of this. Hi.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, if you ever have any topic ideas, something that you want to talk about, just shoot us an email, send it on Facebook, whatever. We're always looking for ideas. So you don't want to just leave it up to Leah and I, because who knows what we're going to talk about. Tahini shakes. You just don't know.
I know, we love those tahini shakes.
We do. So that's a whole an hour we could go off on, but we won't do that. All right, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really nice.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.